Hello, third graders. My name is Ms. Applin, and today we will be learning about how to recognize fractions that are also whole numbers. From the Iowa Core Part C, we will target express whole numbers as fractions and recognize fractions that are equivalent to whole numbers. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to tell what fractions are also whole numbers. They will also be able to show visually how to represent whole numbers as fractions. Let's start with a little review of the parts of a fraction. In the fraction 1 over 2, if we draw a circle, we know that there has to be two parts to make up the whole. In this fraction 1 over 2, we know that we have to draw in 1/2 of the circle to represent 1 over 2. How do we know if a fraction is a whole number? An easy way to determine if a fraction is a whole number is to see if the numerator can equally divide the denominator into a whole number. For example, if we have the fraction 1 over 1, we know that 1 divided by 1 equals 1. Therefore, this fraction is also represented as a whole number. Let's try another example. If we have the fraction 5 over 1, we know that 5 divided by 1 equals 5. Therefore, 5 over 1 is also a whole number. We can also show this relationship by drawing a picture. If we draw 5 circles, we know that each circle only has one part. If we have 5 of them, then that means that we have 5 whole circles. Let's take the fraction 4 over 2. If the denominator is not 1, you can still use the numerator divided by the denominator to see if it is a whole number. If we take 4 divided by 2, we get 2. Therefore, 4 over 2 can also be shown as the whole number 2. We could also figure out that 4 over 2 is a whole number by reducing the fraction to 2 over 1. Do this by dividing the numerator and the denominator by 2. Now we have 2 over 1, and if we have 2 over 1, we know that we have 2 whole circles. Therefore, 4 over 2 is actually 2. Now let's practice turning whole numbers into fractions. Let's try this with the number 10. If we draw the number 10, we have 10 circles. If each circle is only made of one part, then we know the fraction for 10 is 10 over 1. Therefore, any whole number can be made into a fraction. We can show several fractions by using this example. For instance, if we use 7 and we wanted to make it into a fraction, we would simply do 7 over 1. We know that this is the answer because if we draw 7 circles, and each circle only takes one part to make up the whole, then we have 7 whole circles. Let's review what we learned in this lesson today. The first thing that we learned were that some fractions can be represented by whole numbers. We know how to figure out if a fraction can be represented by whole numbers by dividing the numerator over the denominator. When we do this, if we get a whole number, then we know that the fraction can also be represented by a whole number. We also learned that any number can be a fraction. We can turn any whole number into a fraction by putting it over 1. For example, we can turn 5 into a fraction by doing 5 over 1. This is because it takes one part to make up a whole, and we have 5 of those parts.